It's an island foodscape takeover. If anybody asks, we call it permaculture. Planting seeds, we secure our family's future. What you give is what you get from the roots and up. What you give is what you get from the roots and up. What you give is what you get from the roots and up. Yeah.
Aloha kako, Kuhr here with HIP Agriculture. In this episode, we're going to learn how to propagate plants with a wide variety of techniques, including seed saving, taking cuttings, doing root divisions, and also making air layers. There are certain plants that we've saved seed from for years on our farm. Some of the things we like to save seed on are the ashwagandha, GMO-free papaya, this strain called an exotica. We also save seed on some different corn varietals that we grow. We save seed on different vegetables that we grow. And this ashwagandha here, also known as Indian ginseng, is actually Solanaceae family. So it's related to tomato. And you can kind of see that it looks like a little tomatillo or a poha berry. And so just like saving seed on a tomato, we're just going to come in here to these little pouches and we save these little golden berries or red berries. And this is what we then plant in the nursery, and we can plant some of these later. And each one of these has hundreds of seeds inside of it. So if you just crack this and squeeze it, you can see there's a lot of seeds inside that ashwagandha. And actually the birds distribute this one as well. For this particular one, like we can plant it directly into the pot, or we do seed save this where we'll ferment a whole bunch of the berries. We'll ferment them, we'll separate out the pulp, we'll screen it, we'll wash it clean, and then we'll dry those seeds, and then we can package those and store them.
Aloha, my name is Donna Mitts, and I work for the Kohala Center, and I'm also one of their new seed growers for the Seed Growers Network. And I'd like to talk to you today about saving seeds. It's important to save seeds where we live because seeds will become a valuable source for planting material that is acclimated to our soil, our weather conditions, our pest pressure and disease pressure that we have in our area. So it's important to start acclimating our seeds to our area. Now we're going to process tomatoes, and they require a wet process. So first thing you want to look for is you want to select for the desired characteristic. In this case, it was size and color. This is a tomato from a plant called Stupichka, and it's a Czechoslovakian open pollinated heirloom variety that we've had good success with. So you're just going to cut the tomato in half. Okay, next we're going to scrape the tomato pulp into a glass of water. And you can see each tomato seed is covered with a jelly coating. We're going to ferment these seeds in water for 3 days, and that will help dissolve the jelly coating around each seed, making the seeds more viable for planting. So this would sit for 3 days and ferment. At that point, you will strain them off from the water. From here, the seeds can go on a coffee filter, and they can dry for probably 2 or 3 days. At that point, you'll just store them.
So really stoked to propagate some cassava here. This is one of my favorite food security crops, grown throughout the world. Super important in South America, super important in Africa. Get a better cut on it. So this is like the kind of stalk that I like to utilize. And you can see the kind of big, branchy. And the main thing with the cassava is just to pay attention when you're harvesting it and then replanting that it's planted right side up. You could easily plant it upside down by accident, and so the way that we can determine that is we look where these little leaf brackets are, and there's a bud, a growing bud right above that, a nodule. And you want that growing bud to be on the top side of that leaf bracket or that stem. And you can see that kind of purple little bud right there. So just make sure that's facing up and you'll be good. I like to plant these about 6 inches deep. And then this is going to be definitely productive here. All right, so we're going to do root division here of banana or maia. This here is a dwarf apple. And we're just gonna basically perform a little bit of surgery where we divide the baby, the keiki, from this mother plant right here. We're gonna just simply dig a trench around the outside of the banana. Being careful not to damage the root itself. We don't wanna cut that root. We're just kind of excavating a trench to get close to the root. And if you can, start to dig underneath the banana a bit. So once you got a nice trench there, and you can use water to kind of spray out in between the two bananas, the mom and the keiki, but basically you want to see where they're connecting and you want to do one clean cut to sever that keiki off. So I'm looking in between right here. This looks about right. And then I like to give it a nice kick right there. And that was a pretty clean cut. I heard a couple little cracks, but overall you can see that's a nice straight clean cut. And so now I can take this to the hose, get it all cleaned off, shave it all down, make sure it doesn't have any weevil damage, and then we can plant this keiki. All right, so here we have Ilex guayusa, which is that delicious yerba mate relative that cures laziness and causes lucid dreaming. An incredible farm tea we grow here on the land. And so we're gonna make a couple quick air layers. It's a shrub that I do wanna keep kind of low for the ease of harvest, so it makes perfect sense to turn these two top branches into a new tree. And I can trim some of the material to get it out of my way so I have a good view plane, an area to work. And then we're gonna come in here basically, and I can see one air layer there and another on this side. So we're just gonna trim the bark off at about an inch of bark we're gonna remove from the tree. And then we'll be able to wrap our sphagnum moss on this. And you can see this one peels easily. That's so nice. Just peels right off. Now I'm putting some moistened sphagnum moss into this foil, and this is gonna hold the moss around the air layer. So now I'm gonna wrap this moss, get my little burrito going, and I'm gonna do a nice little twist to tighten it, seal it, and push that in. And I like that, that's a nice little air layer. So I'm gonna check back in on this air layer in about 3 months. I'll come up to it and I'll squeeze it, and if I can feel a root mass in there, I'll know it's ready, and then it will be ready to harvest and put into the nursery. All right, so yeah, we love to propagate a wide variety of plants, and some cuttings you can plant directly in the ground, right? Other cuttings we have to take a little bit more care for, and we take those cuttings and we propagate them in what we call a soilless media that has less microorganisms, so that when that cut edge gets placed in there, it doesn't rot out from bacterial or fungal infection. And so when we use a soilless media, we do a 50-50 blend of cinders and coconut coir, and that allows for plenty of drainage, but it also holds the moisture well. If you have a mix, say you just put a cutting into some clay soil, well, it's just gonna kind of sit in that pot and it's gonna rot out because it's not gonna have the drainage it needs. So here I have some coconut coir, which I'm gonna add, and this was already moistened. And then I'm just gonna do a little mix of cinder and coconut coir, just mixed right here. A nice 50-50 blend. And that's starting to feel like a kind of fluffy mix that's gonna have good drainage. It's got good moisture to it. I think some cuttings would be happy in this. A very important component to the permaculture farm is having a nursery. because a nursery is going to be that space where you can increase your biodiversity and save quite a bit of money. If you could imagine, if we had to go and buy all of these plants in a nursery, it'd be very expensive. But we're seed savers. We're plant collectors. We got our soilless mix here. And now there's a wide range of plants that we can propagate into the soilless mix. So most plants have what we call the node and then the internode. So this is node, internode, node, internode, node. The node is what has the propagative potential. This is where roots are going to shoot out of, and you can see a leaf came out of that area. And so that's where new leaves are going to form. So I want to make sure that I have at least one, maybe two nodes beneath the soil level, so that I know that it's got an area that can hold moisture and, you know, again, that roots can tap in. So I'm going to just slide this cutting beneath that soil level, and now I got two in there, and I got a little leaf to capture some sun, and I think this is going to definitely be a successful black pepper start.
We are the energy we harness, we are the fruit of the harvest, and when we get buried deep, we are the roots and the seed. See the light and dark in each day, stay clear of the he said, she said, hearsay, stay focused. When the smoke clears, now's the only time worth noticing. This magic's potent, pills and potions, curses in the words spoken, spelling out control, dictating emotions. The collectives been collected, food and rule by the illusion of self-help. Elections, contaminated, control,